Alright, so this is a video on how to write chiptunes or 8-bit sounding music with using free VSTs. And I'll be doing this obviously in Logic Pro, but all the same stuff would apply to other DAWs. So the first thing you'll want to do is download this VST. I have a link down in the description. Once you click over, it's going to take you here. And so you just scroll down and you can download. This works for Windows and PC, so if you're doing something in like FL or in Cubase, or whatever, you'll be able to use this as well. Hey guys, I'm editing this video. I just realized I forgot to tell you how to actually install that plugin. So let's do that real quick. So once you go down here, you're gonna go and download. Let's see, which one do I want to download? Probably this one. Okay, so once this downloads, let's see, you can go ahead and unzip this file, and then this is gonna come up. So what you'll do here is with your drop-down menu, you'll see a bunch of crap in here. This is the thing that's really important, your plugin components. So let me open up a new window. So what we'll do here is this will obviously be different for other DAWs, but for Logic, here's what you're gonna do. Go into your MacBook, and then go Macintosh, Library, Audio, and then you're gonna go under Plugins, and then you're gonna go to Components. And then what you'll do is you'll take this file and you're gonna drag and drop this components file into here. And then you'll be able to open the instrument in your DAW. And this will be a similar process for the DAWs, but this is how it works for Logic Pro. Yeah, sorry, that was a little bit confusing. I forgot to mention that. Anyways, back to the video. So this will obviously be different in other DAWs, but in Logic, you're gonna go over here and scroll down, and you'll select your instrument down here, and then this will pop up. So this might look a little bit confusing, but we're gonna break it all down. Let me play real quick kind of what our goal is, what we'll be trying to make. This is a little composition I put out a few weeks ago as I was actually learning some about chiptunes. So let me play this for you real quick. So we're able to get pretty much all those sounds just from here. So the first thing we need to take a look at is the type, this top one here. This determines the type of sound wave we're gonna have. So there's a couple different types. There's square sound waves, triangle sound waves. This is just noise, and these are like similar sort of sound wave sounds that are good for leads. So let's go ahead and start with square. Here's what it sounds like. Pretty basic. This triangle has a bit of a softer sound. Triangle sound waves are generally used for bass with this type of composition. So you'll want to use those for that. Noise. This is fun. This is just a white noise. Check us out. Yeah, that's what that does. That, you might be wondering what in the world you use that for, but that's actually for percussion. I'll show you how that works in a little bit. You have to do some stuff down here, but you can get like hi-hat and snare sounds off of that. 25% pulse. Sounds more like a square to me. I don't know. It's a good lead sort of sound, and this one as well. Just a different sort of sound. So we'll go back to square, and let's start using some of these other dials that are actually going to make our sounds, more unique and more interesting. So the first one's pretty obvious. It's volume. I wouldn't mess with volume. I would control your volume somewhere else, but you can here if you'd like. Attack. So this is the first one. Attack determines how quickly the note starts making a sound. So like you see over here. Oh, sorry. You'll see over here. I go ahead and press that note. It immediately starts off at like full volume playing that sound. So if I pull this over a little bit, you hear how it takes it a second? Let me bring it over to like a few seconds. It takes it a little while to get to full volume. So if I have no attack, it immediately starts at full volume. A little bit of attack, and it kind of rounds off the sound. You hear how it makes it sound a little bit softer? So that's what that does. That's the big difference. You're generally not going to be doing super duper long attacks unless you're doing some sort of weird effect. It's usually just a little bit. Just some slight differences, but still pretty important. Alright, so now we're to decay. So this one's a little bit confusing. So we also have this sustain level, so we can have the sound decay down. So I'm going to have it decay down pretty quickly in just 0.13 seconds, and I'm going to have it decay down to like half the volume. So it starts off at normal volume, and then the decay goes down to this sustain level that we set. So if we put the sustain level back to 1, it doesn't really do anything at all. It really does nothing. But we want it to go down to like a certain area, so it's going to decay down to this level. That's what's happening there. So that you can get an even more round sound by doing this. So you add a little bit of attack, and then you add, you know, some decay pretty quickly or so, and then it goes down to a little bit less volume here. You start to get a more smoother sound. All right, so let's put all these back to their original settings. All right, release. So I'm gonna go ahead and press this note down. Well, let me take the release off. As soon as I let go, the note stops playing. But if I put release on, let's say for 3 seconds or 3, whatever. Oh, I'm doing bend. What in the world? Yeah, bend range, I don't know what the heck that does. Just forget about that. Ignore it. It's stupid. Release. Let's go back to that. So now I press the note, and then it rings out, right? So that's what release does. It's more like, it's like holding the sustain pedal down on a piano, for example. So now if we have just a little bit of release, it'll start giving you a more legato sound versus, you can hear the difference there. And that's just using it slightly. Anyways, so if you have a little bit of attack and a little bit of decay going down to a little less volume with a little bit of release, you get a way more legato sort of sound. So that's what those, it's all micro adjustments, but really, I mean, this is a pretty big difference in sound from this. So it depends on what you're going for. You'll use that in different situations. So yeah, like I just said, I have no clue what this does, so ignore it. And then right here, this one's fun. This is the sweep switch. So we have negative and positive. This is really like a big pitch bend. So we'll put negative on. You'll see what happens. That's super fun. I love it. And then positive, it goes up. It's great. Right below it, we have something called sweep time. So what sweep time is it determines how quickly it does this bend or this sweep or whatever. So if you bring it down, it will go a lot quicker. Listen. And the same thing applies to negative. It starts to sound like sound effects that you hear in old games, like a, I don't know. Anyway, so there's more you can do with this than just music. I mean, you could use this as sound effects here. But pretty cool. We're going to go ahead and turn that off for now. Then the last couple of things are vibrato. You can honestly not worry about this stuff, but we'll talk about it real quick. So you have a mod wheel on your keyboard. Generally, you may not on yours, but if you do, you hear how it does that vibrato sound. So I have my mod wheel all the way up right now. So you can adjust the mod wheel, how quickly it does this vibrato. That's obviously slower, much faster, kind of in the middle. And then vibrato depth has to do with how far it undulates the sound. So now it's going really crazy, and now it's not as much. It almost sounds like there's no vibrato. That's a little bit. You see what's going on there. Vibrato delay is kind of dumb, I think. What it does is it like delays how long the vibrato, so it starts with no vibrato and then adds it in after, 0.2 seconds, whatever. There's no sound, and then here it comes. I think it's kind of dumb because I would just put my mod wheel down and then put my mod wheel up whenever I wanted it to actually have vibrato, but that's just my personal preference. Anyways, so that's what all this stuff does. So let's go ahead and look at the triangle real quick, just for the sake of covering our bases. We'll give it a little bit of attack so it has sort of a rounded off sound. Give it a bit of decay, and I like to have a little bit of release. Give it a more legato sound, and you can hear how this has a bass sort of sound. whatever. You get the idea? So that's how the triangle one works. The triangle can be a lead. You don't have to use it for bass. A much softer sound, but you know, you can use it however you want. And then we'll skip noise for a second, and then you of course have your other two lead sort of sounds. Get the idea. Okay, let's talk about noise. This is where the percussion stuff comes into play. So we'll put them all back at their original settings. This sounds awful on its own. It's pretty much unusable. So what you need to do is bring your sustain level to 0. And then your delay to like a really short delay. So what that does is, you hear that? So now it immediately, after just a fraction of a second, goes to no sound. So now it's more percussive sounding, right? Now you have kind of like a, if you play it up higher on your keyboard, you get sort of like a cymbal sound. You can add a little bit of attack. If you want to do like so that'll give you like a hi-hat sort of sound. If you want to do like more of a snare sound, you can kind of increase the sustain level here a little bit. That'll make it sound more like a brush. You hear that? You can bring it back down. You can increase the delay. That sounds more like a snare to me personally. A little bit more attack. Like you can micro adjust it until you find what you want, but you can use that to get those sort of sounds. Let's bring this back to its original settings. So that'll give you your snare and your hi-hat sound, but what about the kick? Of course, for the kick, you're actually going to use a square sound wave. And what you'll do is you'll bring your sustain level all the way down again and give it a little bit of delay and a little bit of attack, and then play it down lower. There it is. Something like that. So you want a little bit of attack so it has a round sound, because if you ever hear a kick, it's not like it's like a boom sort of sound. So you want that sort of rounded off start, and then a quick decay down to nothing. There you go. You got a little bit of a kick sound. And then you're going to put all that together to get your actual sounds. So I have in this recording, you can see here, I have individual, this is for like the hi-hat. Let me do this little repeater thing. I'll solo it out. This is my hi-hat sound. Here's my snare sound. And here's my kick. And then here it is all together. So yeah, you want to have separate tracks because they're all kind of mixed differently. So the hi-hats, this is the setting there, and then we have this for the snare, right? Okay, I have more sustain level on this one to make it sound more sweepy. And then for the kick, it's square here, and you can see the settings I had there. So they're different for each one. So that's the basics of like making the different instrument sounds. But there's more to it than just the sounds. I mean, you need to have those down, but there's a few other things you need to kind of know about composition styles, and there's a couple other tricks you can use. So like in this, here's my bass, and this is a triangle sort of sound, right? And then I have different leads and such, like this one right here. This is I can't remember. I think it was one of the other leads. It was like click on it here. I have the wrong one selected. Let me pull it up. Yeah, so this is the 12.5% pulse, whatever that is. So another type of sound wave that I was using for this lead. And you can see I had a little bit of attack, had it rounded off, smoother sound. And then I had this one that was doing runs. This is an important thing with older kind of 8-bit sort of music. It's almost like this classical virtuosic kind of music where it has these really, really quick arpeggios sort of thing happening. So I had that going on right here the whole time throughout the composition. It really does give it sort of that iconic sound. You should use it as well if you're going to be writing some chiptune sounding music. And then once you put all that together, you get that sort of sound. And that's pretty much the basics of it. There are a few tricks and stuff here that I used as well. Like right here, this is actually just an 8-bit sort of sounding kit that just comes with Logic. I mixed it in there with the rest of my drums. I had the volumes turned down on it, but I thought it gave it more of a punchy sound. So it's kind of cheating, to be perfectly honest. But whatever, who cares? It doesn't matter. It sounds pretty good. So feel free to mix in some of your other like drum effects. It's not like it's going to be the end of the world if you do so. And also I did use some other sounds in here. Where is it? Okay, chiptune lead. Yeah, so let me whoops, I had that repeat thing set. I'm sorry. Right here. So that's not included in this free VST, but it is a stock VST you get with Logic. So if you have Logic, you should be able to go under instruments and just type in probably chip, and it should come up, chiptune lead. So I was using that here. And fun thing about this is now that we've talked about how you mix these things down, you can, if you go to controls, right here, you have a lot of similar, like you have your attack and you have your release and your decay and your sustain and such like that. A lot of this is going to be really similar, even looking at other sort of synthesizers that come stock with your program or other synthesizers you might get. You're going to see a lot of those similar settings that are on this free VST that we were working with. So feel free to throw in some other synth sounds you have, especially with all the stock instruments that come with Logic Pro 10. The other thing that I did that was kind of cool is I used one of the, this is just white noise. I believe it was white noise. And what I did was I used that positive sweep up, and I made it sure it was 1 second so it was long, and it did this sort of effect. Let me solo it out. That does really good for building up tension, so this is right here at the intro. So that's a cool trick you can use, and I used it a few other times throughout the composition. And the last thing, this is kind of a more advanced thing, and it's something I don't know a whole bunch about, but it's using arpeggiators. So you get that sort of sound, which is like a super iconic 8-bit music thing. So what's going on here is let's solo out our guy here, do a quick recording. Cool. Okay. So what we're going to do here is, if you pull up all of your instruments, this one right here, you can go under MIDI effects and you can select arpeggiator, and that's going to pull this guy up. And what you can do here is there's a bunch of weird stuff you can do that it gets confusing. If you want to learn more about arpeggiators, you can look them up. But there's a bunch of presets up here that you can use, and this will be the same on any DAW you have. So you can pick one, and one here happens to be called Arcade Trills. It was obviously inspired by this sort of thing. So now when we play that one note we played, it has that sort of video game quick synth run thing. So you can start incorporating arpeggiators into your music, and you're going to start getting some really cool sounds. One thing I have been told about doing 8-bit music is you want to be careful how much of the arpeggiators you use. You don't want to get out of hand with it because it can become annoying. But definitely peppering it in random places, or in areas where you're like doing a transition to another section or something, it can sound really cool. So once you mix all these things together, you start to get some pretty cool sounding 8-bit music. Now, just as a disclaimer, now that we're at the end of the video, I'm definitely not a professional at this stuff. There's a lot I could still learn, and I was still learning some of this 8-bit stuff even a few weeks ago when I made this composition here. But I just wanted to share with you guys kind of what I learned, to see if it would help any of you guys. And if there's something you know that I don't know, let me know. I'm more than open to learn some things. I'm not terribly good with all the synthesizer stuff. I usually go for the more orchestral sounding instruments. But I just wanted to throw this out there and see if it would help anyone out. And let me know if you have any questions about this, I'll do my best to answer them or at least point you in the right direction. And with all that being said, I will see you guys next week. Thank you for watching.